DOGE isn't just affecting federal coworkers, it's affecting the entire job market. Let's talk about what happened, what changes are coming in the job market, and how you can move accordingly. So DOGE stands for Department of Government Efficiency, and the purpose of DOGE is to cut down federal spending by trimming the fat, by eliminating certain jobs and departments. DOGE went into effect January 20th, 2025, and has already been met with some criticism because of potential security implications, doubling the work of other departments, and lack of transparency. Now, before I go any further, let me just start by saying this isn't a political piece. I'll leave that for the political talking heads to go over everything. Not my lane. My goal here is to speak on DOGE as it relates to the job market. So what's been happening with DOGE? Well, tens of thousands of federal employees have lost their jobs because they've been fired. But we don't know the exact number because of the lack of transparency around that number, which I mentioned earlier has been one of the biggest criticisms of DOGE so far. We do know that 75,000 ex-employees accepted a buyout offer. So who was fired? Well, mostly employees who were in a probationary period. Let's take a look at what that means. Probationary employees are defined by the DOE as the first year of employment after initial appointment, during which an individual is generally excluded from the definition of employee. Those employees hired under Schedule A, the federal hiring program for workers with disabilities who remained under probation for 2 years, were included in the purge. Probationary employees were reportedly targeted because we have fewer protections according to the terminated employee, so it's easier to get away with. Essentially, it was easier and cheaper to get rid of those employees on probation. That's why they did it. The remaining employees were asked by Elon Musk last Saturday to list 5 accomplishments in their job, and he wanted them to email those accomplishments on Monday. Now, this is obviously not being received well, and the Justice Department, the FBI, the State Department, the Department of Energy, the Pentagon, the Department of Homeland Security, and other agencies told their employees essentially to ignore the email and not send anything. And the reason why they said that is because each agency is ultimately responsible for how they want to handle evaluating their employees' performance. Just a quick side note, you know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering how, and I don't know if you've ever worked for a company where they had mass layoffs. It was really, really popular last year and now, of course, moving forward. But it really started to kick off in 2023, I feel like, or I don't know, maybe even 2022. I can't remember now, but I don't know if you feel this way, but I've been a part of um, being around people who've been laid off and acquisitions and things like that. And it's hard to work when you're worried about if you were going to have a job or not. So, and these people work for federal agencies, they work for the government. And so I'm just wondering what's actually getting done and who's paying attention and really doing a good job at work because how could they do a good job? And I don't blame them if they don't. They're wondering if they're even going to have a job. So, how many people would come in ready to put in a top-notch level of work every day with all of this going on? I just can't imagine the work environment is very healthy. So, before I talk about what this layoff has to do with you, I'll go over what the layoff means for the job market as a whole. So, let's get the obvious out of the way first. These employees are going to be applying for companies in the private sector. So here's what may not be as obvious. These ex-federal employees aren't just in Washington, D.C. They're also in California and Texas, and there are also contractors all across the United States, but most of them D.C., Texas, Cali. This also affects the job market similarly to what happened with COVID, not nearly on as big of a scale, but the smaller businesses in DC, the government agencies in California and Texas, those surrounding businesses will feel a pinch. So businesses like restaurants, dry cleaners, grocery stores, car washes, etc. So what does all this have to do with you? Well, we know these employees are going to be looking for jobs in the private sector. We also know the job market is already very competitive. No doubt about that at this point. So let's look at the federal employee occupational breakdown. So the reason there's such a huge gap between business, finance, and other occupations is because business and finance can encompass so many other job titles. But that's a pretty general description. Anyway, so my guess is there are plenty of tech positions sitting under this umbrella too. And these employees aren't just your run-of-the-mill employees. They're educated and they've passed rigorous background checks, which the private sector will find attractive. And over half of them also have a bachelor's degree and a little over a quarter have graduate. Let me see if I can find it here. So there's the education, more than half bachelor's, more than a quarter graduate level degree. So depending on your industry, this may not even affect you, at least in the near future. But backgrounds like the business finance we just saw, cybersecurity, data analysts are re-entering the job market. And as they said, most of these employees were in the probationary period that we looked at earlier, and companies and hiring managers will chomp at the bit to get well-educated employees they can lowball, knowing these ex-federal employees will have to take their offers. So let's talk about what you should be looking at moving forward. So knowing what these politicians and companies are going to be focusing on, AI, make sure you work on expanding your skill set while you're either looking for a job or looking to switch careers. It doesn't need to be anything expensive or fancy. Sites like Coursera, Udemy, or even YouTube provide free and low-cost courses that can at least get you either in a position to talk your way through an interview, or it can at least be the foundation from which you build upon. Now, I'm going to repeat this one more time. Please do not take any expensive AI courses right now. Engineers like ML and LLM engineers, they already have extensive knowledge, and this isn't to discourage you or anything like that. It's just a lot of people are starting to go in panic mode with AI. But you just need to have a good idea of what AI is, and more importantly, what AI is not. And you need to be able to talk about how you use AI to streamline your day-to-day tasks to make you more efficient at work. Now, not everything is about AI, of course. This was just an example I used because it's such a popular topic. But whatever you're into, just create a Google alert about your career field or your potential career field. Look at job descriptions on your field so you know what to focus on. Get into some Reddit threads regarding your field so you can learn how to speak the lingo and you can learn about the latest and greatest technology and software that people are using in your field. Reddit threads are really great tools to give you a real-time idea of what people are using at different companies as it relates to technology and software and the kind of lingo they're using. These types of things, like I said, I help you to learn enough to get through an interview or a case study or presentation so that you can land the job. But from what I'm seeing, this is how it's going to be moving forward. So we might as well continue to have these conversations and think of creative ways that we can keep ourselves in the front of the line while all these changes are happening. That's all for now. Subscribe for more.